the
And we're
quiet jet
live.
engine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hello, and welcome everybody to the 26th episode of Hell in a Handbasket. I know it's the 26th
Yay.
episode because none of you wrote it, so
Oh, okay. Okay. I
I
was
can
I
see
was
it.
wondering how you got it.
Well, I'm still pissed off how I missed 25. I got two 24s in a row. But anyway, um, so we've been trying to record this episode since like last week, but shit keeps popping up for both of us. And so finally, we were able to record this episode on the 9th. So it is the 9th of July. And what are the things that we missed since our last episode? Let me plug my laptop in so it doesn't die as I'm talking. So things that we missed, Donald Trump stopped arming Ukraine and then started arming Ukraine again. Iran. Um, so update on Iran. It seems like the war really is over for now. What else? Azerbaijan. We missed the whole thing with Azerbaijan. Did we hit the thing about the Russians rounded up the criminals or not?
No. That was right after we did our last recording when they did the roundup of the gangs. Yeah.
Yep. So famously, two Azerbaijani underworld people got killed. And then Azerbaijan rounded up a bunch of journalists, like Sputnik journalists and some IT dudes, and tried to humiliate the Russians on TV publicly, beat the shit out of them, all this stuff. So this is some of the stuff that's on my mind.
All right. So
As
where do you
scatterbrained as I
want to
am
start,
today.
sir? Where do you want to start?
Well,
You
I
want to
would
start
say
in Ukraine, Iran?
let's start with Ukraine. You know, my favorite topic is always Ukraine. Let me just share my screen here. Present.
Sure.
So I was reading RT today, and this popped up.
Putin puppet.
Yeah, right. No, you gotta know everybody's propaganda. This is like just always been my approach to news. Like everybody's lying, everybody's doing propaganda. I don't know why my screen is not appearing. You still got your little video up there.
Yeah, I gotta remove it.
I'm assuming that's the two scoops.
Stage. Yeah. Just remove. There you go, sir.
All right. So this is just one that came out today. So let's talk about this whole thing where Donald Trump stopped arming Ukraine. So Donald Trump came out and after this whole kerfuffle with Israel, and they were saying that they needed to withdraw stocks of Patriot missiles that had already been guaranteed to Ukraine through the Biden pipeline. So this is that much ballyhooed, much talked about Biden pipeline. The things are supposed to still be in the works for, that things are still supposed to be flowing through. And they went to Poland and even here parts of Ukraine and took hundreds of missiles that were already like they were already counting on these missiles to be there. Like they needed them for some shit. I don't know. So
Sure.
Basically, because of this, the way I'm looking at it, the way it seems to me is because of this whole situation with Iran. And we've talked about this since Trump's election. Trump wants to disentangle himself from Ukraine, and he wants to double down where he perceives that there's some level of success. But they need those rockets, they need those missiles. And I heard recently that we apparently make around 600 Patriot interceptors a year. And so after they said that they were going to stop arming Ukraine with, like, they had like some list of weapons. It was like some high tech shit that is going to be not easy to make. Things like Stingers. I know I had some written down in some notes of mine, but like Stingers. Oh yeah, HIMARS rockets, like the higher end HIMARS stuff. Even to the point of artillery. So that's kind of crazy that even 155 millimeter artillery, which recently we heard all this stuff about how the West was going to be ramping up their artillery production. We even got machinery from Turkey to ramp up our artillery production to, I forgot what it was, 40,000 a month or something. And they never ended up doing that. And so the Russians are producing 4 times as much artillery.
I think they had planned to do 50, and the last I had heard, it was somewhere in the 36 range.
So just under 40,000.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And so the rumors were that they were pulling all that stuff. And then after that, Donald Trump had this phone call with Putin. It was very, it was talked about in the news a lot because Vladimir Putin said the phone call went well. It was like a great phone call. And like in the lead up to the phone call, he also talked about this phone call that he was going to have. Like he tried to make it seem publicly that he was excited for this phone call with Donald Trump. Like situations where he didn't have to talk about it, he would bring up that, and I'm going to have this very important phone call, with Donald Trump. And I'll talk about one of the situations was he was talking to somebody that was some Russian cosmetics company. And he's like, and I'll talk to Donald Trump about this Russian cosmetics company. And I'll talk to Donald Trump about cultural exchange of whatever. That apparently that's one of the things that they talked about on this phone call, like a cultural exchange of films that support the mutual values of Russia as well as the United States. But what it looked like to me, what the real phone call was really about, this is just like, okay, conspiracy theory time, right? From my perspective, is it looked like Donald Trump made this huge announcement about shit being pulled back from Ukraine so that we could buttress Israel's position. And he called Vladimir Putin up. We don't know who called who, but this is like how I'm thinking, right? So maybe he called Vladimir Putin up and was like, hey, listen, maybe now's a good time for a ceasefire. I'm stopping arming Ukraine. That's one of the things that you want. And of course, Vladimir Putin, who's been very consistent, the Russians have been very consistent this entire time, was just like, okay, well, thanks, but no thanks, Thanks for all the stuff, and thanks for all the thanks for the wonderful conversation and the showing your interest in our cosmetics and our cultural like our films and all this other shit. But however, we're going to win on Ukraine in the battlefield. So I think that maybe Donald Trump thought that he could like charm his way through. I don't know, maybe he had a lot of caffeine that morning or something.
Right.
So
yeah,
what did you think of that situation?
Well, the way I kind of read the whole thing is somewhat similar to what you're thinking, but a little different. I think that clearly Trump wants to pull out of this war.
Mm-hmm.
They have no interest in it, but they can't back out because he's getting fed all this bullshit from the neocons saying if you pull out, you'll look weak, blah, 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 taco, whatever it is, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
And that actually works on Trump because he's that vain. So I think that while he desperately wants to get out of this because like it's a loser and he knows it's a loser, everybody knows it's a loser, and he doesn't want to be associated with losers. I think he keeps getting prodded by the neocons, and Trump is extremely malleable. I think we all know that. Like whoever gets to him last is sort of that's the new plan,
So I think,
yeah, and I think that they've been putting pressure on the Europeans to wrap this up. The Europeans don't want to wrap it up because for them it's almost existential. They need the Americans to stay in Europe. They need a boogeyman to fight because once the boogeyman goes away and the people in Europe start looking at how badly they're getting fucked all the time, that's not a good look, right? And then people start to question, well, what's the point of this EU? Well, they're already doing that, right? The EU is very, very precarious right now, I would say, and as is NATO. And I think that the European leadership, they like their neocon friends in Washington, they just want to keep the grift going. And their plan, and I've said this before, they want to wait out Trump. They'll wait the 3.5 years if they need to, but right now they're focused on the midterm elections. And for them, if they can get Democratic majorities in, well, that's just as good as kicking Trump out. So I think that's now the plan for both the neocons in Washington as well as the Eurotrash in Europe. Now, what does all this mean for weapons? I think that Trump slash whoever, they blame it on Hegseth, but we all know this was coming from Trump. They can't tell me that Hegseth made this, decision unilaterally, right? So they decided to pull the weapons back because I think you're right. I think they are short on weapons, and they do need to redeploy it to places in the Middle East and or China and or wherever. So I do think that that's a huge risk. So they figured, let's pull these weapons back, and that's what they did.
Well,
Then,
notice. Oh, go ahead.
then the NATO summit happened, and Zelensky even almost wore a suit. It was that important to him.
Yeah.
So I think Zelensky got to Trump with the beggar's bowl in hand, and Trump, being Trump, said, "Yeah, we'll quote like what he says here in the article. We'll have a look. We'll try to help you out," is what he said. "We might be able to give you 10." That's what Trump said.
Yeah, they get literally. That
So
was the. I don't know if Trump said that, but I think that was some independent researchers figured out where you
no,
could
I think
figure out he
I
said
think
it.
Trump was quoted, yeah,
Okay.
and so Uh, I think that Trump said he would make the effort, but it was like half-handed and half-assed because he happened to have Zelensky and the rest of these Euros all around him at the time, and they were all praising him at the time. Keep in mind too, like it was just a Trump love-in at the NATO meeting, so
Mhm.
they were all taking turns sucking him off. So he was feeling like the king of the world. And I think that the beggar came over, asked him for a few missiles, and he said, "Yeah, I'll see what I can do. We'll see if we can send you a few." And that's what happened. And then the media took it because keep in mind, the mainstream media, they're on board with the neocons and the Euros, right? So they grabbed the story as being, oh well, Trump has done this big reversal, and Trump is he's changed his mind on Ukraine, and blah 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 blah. This is all cope. This is all cope by the media,
Mhm.
and that's all we're seeing. I think that Trump. I don't believe, and I see no evidence whatsoever that suggests to me that Trump has any intention of renewing widespread arming of Ukraine. I don't think that'll happen whatsoever. I think
So,
this is media spin and media cope and hope.
so here's what I think. I think that Trump might want to uh, pawn Ukraine off on Europe already. He's
Yeah.
had this failure. He's showed his frustration with Vladimir Putin. I was watching him say something today where he was like, "He's
All
full of
very clear.
bullshit." He literally
Yeah.
said that.
One thing I'll say about Trump and team, they've been very clear on what the plan in Ukraine is. And they've been very open about it. All of them. Vance, Hegseth, Trump, you name it, right? Rubio, they've all said the same thing for the last several months. So they've been consistent. It's just everybody else chooses not to listen to them for some reason. I don't get it.
Well, I think that with them trying to pawn this shit off on Europe, you
Mm-hmm.
brought up the NATO summit. They
Yep.
might be. It might have been this. Like they might have been like, yeah, we're willing and ready to throw our population under the bus in a time of already budget deficits and stuff. We're willing to shell out much more for defense, right? Uh, but one of the stipulations is you can't be backing away from Ukraine like this. We need you here. I think that's part of it. I think the
Yeah.
Europeans
Could
are
be.
willing to take it on, but they want to at least, even if the Americans aren't going to be a full backstop, they want them to at least look like it and have the foot in the door still, where it could still be finagled somehow. And then what I think Donald Trump is doing is he's pouncing on this as like, oh, well, another possible win for my administration, that my much beleaguered administration that's going from one failure to another.
Right.
And look what they say. Look, notice how he frames it. Patriots are very expensive.
Of course.
You better be really shelling out if you really want these Patriots, man. Ooh. And then what else do we see? We're gonna have a look. It's a shame we have to spend so much money on supporting Kiev. You guys better start doing this shit, and you guys better be buying these.
All very consistent. Vance said that from the start. Like, and that's exactly what they're doing here. Like, yeah, it's fairly clear to me. It's like, yeah, we're happy to let you guys kill each other with our weapons. Pay up. Right? That's all they're saying. And the Euros are like, oh, great. Trump is going to help us. No, you idiots. You stupid idiots.
No,
He
I think you're
wants you
right.
all to die.
It's not
That's
that
it.
Trump's going to help them. I think they want to do the outlast Trump thing, but
Mhm.
still, even as they're trying to do the outlast Trump thing, even right now, it is they're in a situation where uh, they've already co-opted Trump to do most of the shit that they need. Like they've just
No, they
put him
haven't.
between to do a lot of stuff.
Not
Like
really.
I think so. I think that they've been able to get him to pipe down on Ukraine. I think they've gotten him to be able to pipe down over um, uh, their what was he saying before? What was he complaining about before about what? Well, I guess he's still I guess he's still hammering hard on that. You guys better pay for shell out more of your.
Well, this is what I'm saying, Bradley. On the Ukraine file, they haven't changed their position as best I can tell. Ever since Vance came out with that famous speech, well, it was Vance, right, who first came out and fucking told them all what a useless sack a lot of a bunch of countries they were.
Mhm.
They haven't changed their position. And that's what I'm saying. Like Trump hasn't folded it at all. All Trump did was at a cocktail party said, yeah, while he was being praised by everybody at the cocktail party, basically calling him their king. He said, yeah, your king will see if he can do something for his subjects. That's all it was. Right?
Well, see, they're playing him.
Have
That's
these
why.
10 have these 10 interceptors even been transferred yet? Do we know that for sure? I doubt it. You
Well,
know,
see, when
this
they
is all
call him
theater.
daddy, when freaking
Yeah.
Mertz goes out there and he calls him daddy, I think they're just hammering on that sore spot. They're doing it again and again. It's what's worked. It's what Trump has responded to. Even if you do it in a cheesy way that half works, half doesn't work. Remember when Witkoff was like, "I pray and I thank the Lord every day for working that I work for Donald Trump." Like you really think that that guy really does that? No, he just knows what to say in order to get Trump to what's it called. So and this is Trump just leaning into that. He can see, oh, this is where I will be able to chair shit, not going to plan, playing hardball with China, playing hardball with Russia, not going to plan. Uh, BRICS is still full speed ahead, still gaining in power. Where does he have some kind of success? Well, remember how Vaughn always says, if he could come back with a big bag of gold from Ukraine and say, "Hey, look, I have a win. This is a win," then he could basically wash his hands and untie itself. So this is a little bit something like that, where if he can get away with and say, "Well, look, I bolstered the American economy because for the first time ever under Trump, Europeans finally started paying their fair share into NATO." That would be kind of like a win for him in this whole unsalvageable situation. So,
It's always the last place you'll up.
what were you trying to?
My
Oh, you're
weed.
trying to find your vape pen.
So yeah,
But
I think this is just all theater, and I think it's a whole lot of cope by the mainstream media. And I think they're just trying. I think they're this is their plan. They're trying to keep Trump engaged. They're trying to pull Trump back in, and they might do it. Like these 10 interceptors could very well lead to more, but I don't think so because they just number one, they don't have the money. And number two, they don't have the production even if they had the money. So like, what is it that they're actually going to send? That's the other thing that people keep forgetting. It's like they did an assessment of their inventory, and that's why they pulled it all back. The European militaries have basically all said that the cupboard is bare. So even if a magic leprechaun came down with a pot full of money, it's not going to turn anything into a shell, you know?
That's the
So
crazy thing.
that's the
All it's
problem.
going to do is it's going to raise the demand and the supply demand equation. The problem is the lack of production. How
Exactly.
so
Right. Exactly. Like, unless they're going to buy all the shells and stuff from China. So I don't know where it's going to come, or North Korea. Where's it actually going to come from? And that's the problem, right? You've got a bunch of people who are running their mouths and nothing to back it up with, you know? And everybody sees that. So it's kind of like Russia is just, the guy over in the corner, the badass who actually, can kick some ass. He's just kind of like ignoring them all, saying, I'm just doing my own thing. And then
yeah,
you got
that's why
these
Donald Trump
yappy
says
little.
he's full of bullshit because that's what he says. That's what he means by it. He means I feel like I'm being ignored, like I'm being rung around the rosy here. And yeah, you are
Well,
because you have Donald Trump. You have a weak hand, according to your own lingo. You have no cards. You
he's got
haven't
no
no cards.
cards. So, and that's Donald Trump, right? Like, he just expects people to bend to his will just because he snaps his fingers. Because I think that's just who he is as a person. And he was raised that way. Like, the guy's had a silver spoon up his ass ever since day one, right? So he's got a very entitled opinion of himself. So when he does get pushed back, apparently the word on Trump was always this: if you push back Donald Trump, he folds like a cheap suit.
What
So, and that
they
looks
always
pretty
say.
evident to me. Yeah. And that looks pretty
But
clear to me.
yeah,
So Trump, when he
maybe
says,
that's
I'm
why he
kind of,
plays hardball because he responds to it himself. So he just
well, that's all he knows. All he knows is the hammer. And I'm going to come in like King Kong. That's a negotiation tactic. That's negotiation 101. That's one tactic that you can use to negotiate. I've done it myself. If you go in banging your chest like King Kong and screaming and yelling, you throw everybody off
mhm.
and you automatically have the advantage. And I've always said this, and people talk about Karens and stuff. There's a reason why Karenism exists. If you say, fuck you, let me talk to the manager, you're going to get somewhere, you know? And I think that Trump likes doing that sort of stuff. But when he gets like a grown adult who
Can agree
isn't
with
going
you, say
to,
nice things, and then still at the end of the day say, "But I'm going to do what I want." To Donald
yeah,
Trump, that sounds like quote
well,
unquote
he doesn't
bullshit.
like that because he's a spoiled brat. And that's what it is. That's nothing more than that. Donald Trump is just being
Narcissists
spoiled.
hate
Yeah,
being told no.
exactly. And he's a classic narcissist. That is very clear, right? So that's all this is. He'll sulk, but that's what narcissists do. He'll sulk. Oh, poor me. Vladimir's being, he's not playing with me the way I'd want to be played with, right? That's what he's saying. And the world is just looking at it all and saying, what a child this guy is. So yeah, Putin's not going to budge 1 inch. Trump knows that, and there's nothing he can do about it. The Europeans also know that, and there's nothing they can do about it. So, on the one hand, Trump is sulking, and on the other hand, the Europeans are doing everything and anything in their power to keep America engaged because they
Well,
know
yeah,
without America, they're nothing.
you hear this shit
You want to say
about that
that?
came out recently about the so-called chemical attacks. Oh, Russians are
Yeah, like
stepping up their chemical attacks, right? And they're in the press conference when Donald Trump was asked about this, he literally leans over to Pete Hegseth and asks him, "Do you know anything about this?" So look, it shows you
well,
like
not only that, apparently the chemicals was tear gas.
I mean, chemicals are chemicals. Chemical warfare is chemical
Sure, sure.
warfare. Whatever, of course, it's different than what the Ukrainians are doing, which is like a legit poisoning people. But At the same time, it's really what it is. Like, it's more about, well, this next thing that I have queued up. Look what else is happening. Look why else we can't let our guard down about the Russians, and we can't trust them, and we can't let Ukraine lose. UK arson attack trial reveals how Russia-linked operatives recruited gig workers for terrorism. This article was hard to hunt down. I ended up having to cut and paste it into Open Office. Anyway, Dylan Earl and Jake Reeves pleaded guilty to arson and an offense under the National Securities Act. So needed a fresh start in life, unsatisfied. This whole thing reads like a freaking spy thriller, right? Dylan Earl said he needed a fresh start in life, unsatisfied by his prospects in his dreary English town. He decided to orchestrate a terrorist attack in London on behalf of a Russian mercenary group. If he'd had things his way, the 20-year-old small-time drug dealer would have moved to Russia to join its military. He'd heard that he could make good money fighting for what he saw as a just cause, but feared his lack of spoken Russian would hold him back. This reads like freaking a fairy tale, right? Already, it's obvious. As it happened, Earl was able to join the warfare from the comfort of his home in England's Midlands. All it took was a simple hi to an anonymous Telegram account called Privyet Bot that was inviting Europeans to join the, quote, resistance against Ukraine's allies. Yeah.
So this group, how do they know that they're, quote, Russian linked? Right? They could very well be, but like,
yeah, exactly. There's nothing. If you read in the article, they don't even have a lot of the chat logs. They only have like parts of chat logs, and they don't have any like evidence. They always just imply there was like said to be linked.
But even if the owner of this group was indeed Russian, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that it's a Russian government operation. This is just some nutter out on the internet, you know? That could very well be too. Like, everything is not government linked or Russian inspired or whatever words they use. You know, this is all, it's propaganda. It's propaganda.
British prosecutors said the Privyet bot account was associated with Wagner. That's how we know. British prosecutors said that is what they provide us with.
What does associated? What does associated mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Does it mean that the owner of Privyet Bot said, yes, I support Wagner? Does that mean he's associated with them? Did he say, hey, I associate with the people in, like, this is word salad to fit a narrative is what I see here.
And this whole thing is the narrative, this whole story. This had created headaches for those tasked with keeping Europe safe. Ken McCallum, the head of MI5, Britain's domestic intelligence service, warned last year that Russia is on a, quote, mission to generate mayhem on British and European streets. Richard Moore, then head of MI6, the Foreign Intelligence Agency, put it more bluntly. Quote, Russian intelligence services have gone a bit feral. Oh, dun. As we could see, it's like...
Okay, so let me take it even further then. Let me just assume now that this is a Russian government operation, right? Is that a bad thing, given that the UK is openly supporting a war against Russia? Like, again, I mean, let's assume that this is all true then. It's great that they're reporting on it, but again, if I'm a reader of this, as I am right now, I'd say to myself, well, yeah, even if it was a government op, yeah, I'd expect the Russian government to do this sort of stuff because you guys are doing it to them too, right? So it's not a big gotcha or anything. It seems to me like somebody recruited a bunch of morons who got caught doing something.
Think about it like this. Accuse the other of what you are guilty of. The British are doing terrorist attacks on Russian soil, so they're accusing the Russians of doing the same shit. Watch. Is some Ukrainian oligarch owned a warehouse somewhere, hired some dudes to start a fire to get insurance money in order to get off on it. They came out and they were like, yeah, this is a whole Russian thing. It's a Russian operation, and the British were happy to jump on it. The crime. continuing the freaking storybook's tale here. Earl made money dealing cocaine with about 20,000 pounds in cash and more in cryptocurrency to show for his exploits, but he wanted to make it big. And that meant getting out of England. One place in particular caught his eye. What do you think? What do you think? It is not clear when Earl first became interested in Russia. On June 23rd, 2023, he joined a Telegram group called AP Wagner Chat. That same night, Yevgeny Prigozhin, head of Wagner, declared what would prove to be a short-lived mutiny against Russian President Vladimir Putin. Prigozhin died in a plane crash 2 months later. Earl joined both smaller pro-Russian Telegram chats and larger groups such as Grey Zone, which boasted some 500,000 subscribers, and according to British investigators, functioned as Wagner's de facto mouthpiece.
Okay, that right there just destroys all credibility, because are these the same British investigators investigating the crime who are referring to the Grey Zone as a de facto mouthpiece? Like, anybody who's ever seen the Grey Zone's reporting on anything, or for that matter, Max Blumenthal's reporting on anything prior to starting the Grey Zone, they know what kind of a reporter he is, right?
Well, I think that my guess, but this is just my guess, is that they don't mean that Grey Zone. I think there's another Telegram chat called that, but it is Gray spelled like Gray Zone. Grey Zone is spelled like that, so it could be. But the article doesn't give us anything, and I can't really find anything else about this. Even this article was really hard to get.
Oh, I would have figured Grey Zone just would have had a channel. So
yeah. Okay. I think, see, it could be. That's
enough.
what I mean. It totally could be. I just don't know. Okay. So let's see. Oh yeah, of course. The account gave Earl his first target, warehouse in Leighton, East London. Site was run by a Ukrainian man whose business included delivering Starlink internet terminals to Ukraine, crucial technology for Kiev's war effort. Okay, I see where this is going. The most corrupt country in the world, corrupt oligarch in the most corrupt country in the world, freaking try to collect insurance money. That's what this is. In case Earl was not sure what kind of work he was getting into. Oh my God, this is so hilarious. Privyet Bot told him to watch the series The Americans, a Cold War drama in which Russian spies embedded in Washington, D.C. conduct dangerous espionage missions for the Soviet Union.
Go watch this television show in the language you don't speak. Have fun.
Well, no, I think The Americans it's an American show. I think
no, I mean, but the Ukrainians, the Ukrainians are
the Ukrainians are like, we don't speak this language, but you should watch this series. It totally is what we're talking about.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think this went down something like this. Yeah, get some idiots to go burn down the warehouse. This stupid Ukrainian or UK government keeps funding this war. I've got a warehouse full of Starlink devices. The thing is worth a fortune right now. So it was probably something like that.
Yeah. I love this too. The tactic proved fruitful. Attacks like that in Leighton are cheap to set up, often deniable, and below the threshold likely to trigger a response under NATO's Article 5. So what they just said is that they're so smart. They did attacks that we wouldn't have evidence for. Geniuses.
Well, no, what they did is implied that the Russian government did it. Is exactly what they've done.
Well, yeah, so but they're saying the Russian government did it, but we don't have any proof. Right. Because they did it so smart. Yeah. That's basically what they're saying. The Russian government has not responded to CNN's request for comment regarding the allegations that a Wagner-linked bot was used to recruit operatives in the Leighton case. Why would they respond to your freaking harebrained bullshit? Like, oh my god,
man, don't present British articles anymore. It just hurts. It hurts.
Well, this is CNN.
This is oh well, okay. Well,
I know it's just as bad. Let's see here. Come on, dude. Anyway, the motive, burning a warehouse, will not on its own tip the balance of the war in Russia's favor, but cumulatively, such attacks can unsettle Ukraine's Western backers. That's what it is. You see, the Wagner is interested in unsettling Ukraine's Western backers. Okay. according to a database of alleged Russian shadow attacks compiled by the US-based Center for Strategic and International Studies. You're using that as a source? Oh my fuck, dude. Think tank. The number carried out quadrupled between 2022 and 2023, then nearly tripled between 2023 and 2024. I'm glad that we're using objective sources like CSIS, or rather Center. What was that, CSIS, or was that the Victoria Newland? Right. Yeah, CSIS. Okay, alleged attacks have included blazes at shopping malls in Poland, an IKEA store in Lithuania, cyber attacks on Czech railways, and the vandalism of Jewish buildings in France. Russia has denied allegations of any involvement. It seems like everybody's getting on the insurance scam thing. Loss, write it off as due to Russians.
There's a lot of denials on mall attacks, aren't there, over there?
It's just the end game. Okay, fine. Actually, well, we'll read a little bit about the fallout. Targets were Reeves was happy to help. Message. Okay, doesn't matter. End game. While preparing for the attacks in central London, Earl began to have grander ambitions. Privyetbot was encouraging. You are wise and clever despite being young. We have lots of glorious jobs ahead. This is like a cartoon caricature of what a British person thinks a Russian person speaks like. But to recruit more people, Earl needed faster payments from Russia. Most of Earl's messages to the bot were not recovered in the investigation. And before that, they say that we were not able to recover Privyetbot's chats either because they were deleted. So you don't have the chats. But one late-night Google translated outburst had not been deleted, shows Earl pleading with his superiors to equip him to become the best spy you ever seen. Oh, man, dude. Historically, Moscow has gone to great lengths to reward and retrieve its spies, but these gig economy recruits can't expect the same. That's right, bitches, because they're not spies. To Russia, they are disposable. To their home countries, they are traitors. In summing up, the judge put it starkly, our parents and grandparents would have had a simple term for what Dylan, Earl, and Jake Reeves did: treason. Excellent defense. I'm sure that they totally got commutation of their sentences for this BS. Okay, I can finally delete this, discard.
Well, they pled guilty. So my first question would be, and I'm sure they did it, right? Because people are 100%. Easily led. I have no doubt. Thoughts. Well, I have no doubt that there's lots of these kind of farming and fishing expeditions that go on both sides. We know there are. And if they can, manipulate naive people, why not do it? But my question would be, show me the evidence of all these payments. That'd be my number one question if I was investigating this.
Oh,
like forget about what these kids say. Forget about, any of that stuff. And I'm sure that all happened. Yeah, I'm sure that all happened. But the smoking gun would be the evidence of these payments made. So unless there's evidence of that, and I didn't get that there was any from that article, and it seems like these guys have already pled guilty. So we're not going to know either way because the case is done. Where's the evidence that there was actually a payment? And I'll bet you there wasn't. I'll bet you. You're drug dealers, man.
Or if there was,
if they got any money coming in, it's from drugs.
Or there was from a corrupt Ukrainian oligarch who needed his warehouse burned down. And that article.
I don't believe any of that for a second. I think they were manipulated, and they thought they were doing stuff. But at the end of the day, I'd be highly doubtful. I'd find it highly doubtful if money ever changed hands. I really would.
Okay.
I think at best case scenario, they were manipulated because they're idiots. No.
Some kind of a fake op like the FBI does or the CIA does.
Not a fake op.
A Muslim that is unbalanced.
Not so much that. I mean, you know, these could just be people like they're Ukrainians, right? Maybe they're just disaffected with the war. You know, maybe they're doing this they see this as being patriotic. Who knows, right? But what I can tell you is this story doesn't carry weight with me. I think best case scenario, like I said, they were recruited on some chat site and they were probably talking about doing something, and then they were picked up. Mm-hmm. So, and then from there, like I said, did money ever change hands? Not that I saw from that article. So I have my doubts. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Russian governments are doing this. I don't think, and if they are, they're
You know,
smarter
it's
than,
I think it's obvious that they're not, and that I think it's just the same as like what I was saying, just the same as with that story about uh are Russians using chemical weapons. It's threat mongering. It's be afraid, be very
Sure.
afraid. America can't leave right now. What about America upholding the rights of countries not to, or fair warfare practices? I guess I don't know what the term would be.
Sure.
Uh, Whatever it is, right? So
Well, I have no doubt
hold up. Can you give me
that,
1 second? I'll literally be back in 20 seconds. Sorry. I
sure.
really apologize. Okay, sorry.
Well, I'll keep talking. I have no doubt that, lots of countries will have bot firms, and I have no doubt that they fund these kind of online activities where, you pay people to influence and stuff like that, or you pay people to recruit other people, stuff like that. We know that this all happens. We know that this all happens because a lot of it is out in the open. Like, the CIA openly recruits Russians on Telegram, um, for example. So I think that lots of countries do this sort of stuff. Now, you might make the argument, hey, the Russian government funds these cyber influencers and stuff, and this is part of that. Yeah, that could be true. I wouldn't doubt that at all.
Well, they can't call
But
Russia the number one state sponsor of terror. They already call Iran that.
well, I'm guess what I'm saying. It's indirect funding, right? Like Russia probably pays some firm, go hire a bunch of kids to go stir up shit online. America does it. Every country does it in some fashion, in some respect. I'm sure of it, right?
Well, no,
Because
the troll farms, I
that's
think, are part of your own. Usually, like you've seen those Israeli troll farms, and I'm sure Russians have the same thing.
right. We
Ukrainian
we
have them.
all we all do. We all do. Every country will have a troll firm trying to push some sort of message for something, right? So every country does this shit.
Yeah, it's part of
So,
modern day.
if they're claiming that Russia is funding it, yeah, maybe they are. Who the fuck knows? But I didn't see any evidence of that either, right? So, um, I don't know. It's just more
So really
propaganda.
quickly, before we move hit on Azerbaijan, which is related, I just want to get this out of the way. Can you share this screen? I thought this was a hilarious story.
Oh, sure.
Uh, Russian Prosecutor General's office designates Yale University undesirable organization. Thank you, thank you. Even the Russians have figured out that Yale University is an undesirable organization. Now, I will say that it might be slightly more desirable since what was it? Not Michael McFall, Tim Schneider, and those other two losers left when we talked about that story. This is literally an update on the story about those professors that left, but Yale, undesirable organization. But really quickly, so Armenia and Azerbaijan. So that's another thing that happened while we were, well, I guess this is not really Armenia and Azerbaijan. This is Azerbaijan and Russia, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all part of Armenia, Azerbaijan. But what happened was there was a roundup. Russians rounded up some Azeri underworld, like mafia types, and they were saying that this was due to crimes that were committed, murders that were committed. Like one was like a decade ago, another one was like they were long ago, murders that were committed a while back, and then also attempted murders that happened. And then so that was the official reason for picking him up. Then there was talk that the unofficial reason for picking these guys up is because they were acting as unofficial as information brokers. So part of the criminal enterprise was trying to broker information, and the information that was in demand that they were trying to get access to was Russian defense industry information.
Hmm.
So, and they were saying that who knows who would be the client that would want that, but it's very possible that it's Turkey or a member NATO member, or yeah, because I
Well,
mean,
my understanding of this bunch, and correct me if I'm wrong, you probably know more than I do, but This is a gang. They're basically mobsters, right? And they're dual citizens with Azerbaijan and Russia.
Hmm.
They've been operating in that Caucasus area ever since 91, basically, when the Soviet Union broke up. Like there's a lot of gangster activity going on there, which shouldn't come as a shock to anybody. So, long story short, these guys, they run drugs, they run weapons. They were believed to be providing weapons and stuff to the Chechens back in the day.
Oh, I didn't know
Uh,
that.
yeah, the Russians have been kind of after these guys, but not really. But they've kind of been looking to get them now for pretty much the last 25 years. But it's only now that Russia basically said, you know what, enough's enough. Let's go round them all up and make an example out of them. And I think that was, to your point, because of the security issue. And I also think that they probably want to make sure that Azerbaijan knows that
Could you share my screen, by the way?
Russia's still around. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, so this is just like some clips. Um, this is the Hindustan Times. Yeah, it's from the Hindustan Times. But you can kind of see a little bit of the treatment, the Azerbaijani treatment that these guys had to suffer. Say like these are journalists. They allege that these are FSB agents from the Sputnik office. Well, easy to allege anything you want. Allege just means I say so. But yeah, you can, and there were videos of them. It was clearly some of them were beaten. There were videos of them being humiliated, where they were making them do shit like walk around in the line like a chicken, like all this kind of stuff, and that was on purpose. So I think so. Here's what I think: these guys were probably information brokers. Probably actually were probably doing that. The Prussians were probably right, and they probably were willing to look the other way for a long time with these guys, and that was a no-no. They crossed the line there, and so they stopped looking the other way for a second, and they took these guys down. And
Yep.
this pissed the Azeris off because they were like, I thought we had a thing going on, like we had a deal. You guys know that our guys are there, and you guys aren't touching them or something like this. This is kind of what you know
Well,
how
they're all feeding the guys in the Azerbaijan government, right? So those guys are all on the take too. So that's why they were pissed off. These mobsters are connected with what's his name, the president.
Aliyev.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So I totally think that this is like it connected with Aliyev or connected with somebody else that was important. One of them
Yeah.
gave a call, and some big guy was just like, "Fuck that! No, 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 no. We're gonna do something about this. Go find some of their dudes, round them up." They didn't notice they didn't round up criminal types. I wonder if the Russians maybe don't have that kind of an operation in there. I have no idea. Who knows? But if that's true that they were trying to deal with classified information, you could totally see why that would be absolutely unacceptable for the Russians. Wasn't this the one I just had up? Russia seeks the release of journalists detained in Azerbaijan. Kremlin says arrested on suspicion of fraud, and they have several different allegations now. You guys are spies. You guys are fraudsters. Thou doth protest too much, right? We know what it is. You guys are the fraudsters. So yeah, and how dare you do that? But it seems like things quieted down after this. So you can see like the most recent news was like literally days, like okay, 6 days ago. Was there any update 6 days ago though from the Global Post? Azerbaijani authorities on Tuesday jailed two. See, it's just the same story. Said that Sputnik Azerbaijan allegedly paid for its operation using illegal funding sources after being shut down by the Azerbaijani government in February. So we got 3 different allegations. Everywhere you go, everywhere you look, they're accusing him of different shit. Another Russian state-run media outlet abruptly said one of its editors was arrested after trying to film police raids at Sputnik offices. Russia considers this as unfriendly acts, blah, blah, blah. Okay, some believe the crackdown of the Russians in Baku is in retaliation for deadly raids by Russian Federal Security Services (FSB) in the Russian central city of Yekaterinburg, where more than 50 Azerbaijanis were detained last Friday. That's a major raid. Like they really cracked down on this whole operation, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think
Yeah.
that
Well, it wasn't. I think the Western media tried to make it a bigger story than it actually was, to be honest with you. I think that they just wanted to say, "Oh, look, Russia's losing influence. Russia's, is isolated." All that horseshit. Like you saw a lot of stuff around this issue. But at the end of the day, what happened was Russia got pissed off. They finally said enough's enough. They rounded up the gang. Azerbaijan didn't like it because they're all corrupt. And they reacted by grabbing a bunch of Russian citizens, I guess thinking that they could somehow negotiate.
yeah,
Russia's not
like
going to negotiate
exchange
with them.
them.
Yeah, Russia's just going to say, "Listen, you're reliant on us, not the other way around. Release the journalists. We're going to go prosecute the criminals, which they're criminals. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bring back the journalists, or we're just going to cut you off with something.
Well, Erdogan
That'll be the end
today,
of it."
either today or yesterday, said something about having spoken with Putin and Aliyev both, and that they want it to end. I mean, it looks like you freaking got this whole thing started in the first place. Kind of what it seems like. Like, yeah, I don't
I
trust you. I don't. I think Azerbaijan is fully in the pocket of Turkey right now, especially under its current leadership. I think
But the thing about it is, I think I get the sense that the Russians' patience with the Turks is razor thin. Like they're just like, "We've tried everything to help advance your fucked up shitty country, and
Mhm.
all you guys do is stab us in the back every time we reach out our hands to you guys and try to help you in some way." I don't know why they even talk to them anymore, to be honest with you. So
Because they're neighbors. You got to talk to your neighbors. As you know, today we had to start a little bit later because I had to deal with neighbor problems.
sure,
Um, it's like I think that's the difference between countries in Europe and like Americans that don't understand neighbors, right? We only understand like we do what you do what we say, And when Canada says "nah," we're like, "What?" you know. We're like,
yeah.
we don't have that kind of neighbor relationship. But of course, remember this whole thing that happened. Diplomatic ties between Azerbaijan and Russia began to deteriorate in December when an Azerbaijani airliner crashed in Kazakhstan. Azerbaijan had accused Russia of obstructing the investigation into the incident, which later showed that the plane was struck by the Russian Air Force in response to a Ukrainian drone attack on Grozny, Chechnya's administrative capital. So it looks to me like somebody's trying to, and I'm not the first person to make this point, somebody's trying to unwind a war in Russia's south, right? They're trying to get Russia to have to fight a war on two fronts. Like everything is going wrong with Ukraine. Nothing they do is working. It's obviously destined to fail. It's accelerating. The pace at which Ukraine is losing territory is accelerating. The groans and complaints that we hear from the Ukrainian official mouthpieces as well as the population are complaining. Ukrainians were openly cheering that recruitment centers were being hit by Russian missiles. They were like saying, "Yeah, let's try to screw you guys." Um,
Yeah.
so there's
Well,
that kind of shift. So what can we do? Well, it didn't work out in Romania, but maybe or Georgia, Romania, right? But maybe it could work out in Armenia, Azerbaijan, and we could get something over there, and then the Russians will have to. That's what I think.
yeah, and I mean, if that's the line of thought, then they're fairly stupid, clearly, because like, at the end of the day, Buddy in Azerbaijan and the leadership there, I'm sure they don't care about the gang. They're just probably dealing with the Russians now, and it's probably going something like this. "Okay, we don't care about all those criminals that you arrested. We just don't want to be attached to it. So get whatever you need to do, get them to plead guilty, kill them in the prison. We're good. Just keep our names out of it." That's probably what's going on right now, would be my guess. Is there some sort of diplomatic effort that Russia will like get them all to, go to Siberia somewhere, and then the journalists will come back. Azerbaijan's not going to go to war. They're not even going to have a major conflict or anything like that over
I think they want to.
a bunch of criminals. Nah, it's theater, dude. You're just reading propaganda from mainstream media. I think they're all hoping for this stuff,
Fair
but
enough. I
it's not going to
am.
happen. None of
I
this is going
do.
to
I do
happen.
that. I do read
Like
propaganda from mainstream media.
Azerbaijan, like the last thing they need is to go fight Russia. Meanwhile, you got Armenia right next door. Nah, it's
Well, or take down Armenia.
it's just more cope from the mainstream media.
Force
That's all I
Russia
see it.
to have to uh, um, to trigger their CSTO obligations. Real, because the thing is, like, over the Armenians gave the Russians a lot of shit for not bailing them out over the Nagorno-Karabakh issue, but the thing is that Armenia didn't even try to really fight over the Nagorno-Karabakh. They didn't
I
mobilize
didn't
their army. Go ahead.
I didn't get the sense that they even like really asked Russia for any sort of help. They basically walked away from it. Did the what's his name, the president, walked away from it more or less, right? So
Pashinyan, yeah.
how is that Russia's fault? I don't get it.
Well, this is the thing. So I think that Pashinyan was hoping to get the Russians to be involved in the Nagorno-Karabakh issue and get them to be split. But the Russians didn't play this game, and they could see, because Russians could see that you guys aren't even fighting for it, for the Nagorno-Karabakh. So, like, what do you guys expect us? What can we even do in this situation?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, and it just looks to me like Pashinyan is purposely trying to move Armenia into the Western orbit, because he knows that if he wants to build some kind of a legacy, if he wants to build some kind of a dynasty, if he wants to put his people in there, you're going to have a big daddy that allows you to do that. If you say, okay,
Sure.
just spread Armenia open for us, and you can we'll call it Pashinyanian Armenia, just like Saudi Arabia, right? Something like that.
I don't know. From what I understand, he should probably be looking to get out of Armenia right now. I don't think he's that popular there, right?
Really quickly, we should also hit on this. This is not the first ship that Yemen is freaking taken down. So Yemen is gunning for ships now. Right when they thought it piped down. Hold up, I gotta pee. I'm drinking Dr. Pepper, and it's going right through me. I'll be right back.
Okay, I'll read the article. Oh, he takes a piss. A Liberian flag cargo ship. Well, you guys can read. Jesus Christ. This is story time. Basically, um, the Houthis, they attacked a cargo ship over in the Red Sea. It sank. There are apparently 19 crew members who are still missing. And basically, like the Houthis have said that they're going to continue attacking any sort of ships that are, I believe they said, American, British, or Israeli linked. Now, I'll have to wait for Mountain Dew Boy to get back to answer the question here, because I really haven't been following this, because it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, it's another ship hit. But my understanding, yeah, it says here in the article, it's a Greek-owned ship and Liberian flagship. So I'm not really sure how that's connected to America, the UK, or Israel, but maybe Bradley knows. And don't have anything else to say about that. It's too bad for the sailors. 21 Filipinos and a Russian were killed, and these were just guys trying to earn a living, I'm sure, working on a cargo ship. Did you hear any of that?
No, I was taking a
Oh,
leak. Sorry.
okay. Basically, I read the whole thing, so don't worry about that. My only question
Oh, okay.
was, I thought they were only attacking UK, American, and Israeli link ships. This one is a Greek-owned ship with a Liberian flag, so why would it be attacked?
So I think that this is an escalation. They're escalating. Like They're
But why this
putting
ship?
down the
Like
screws, putting in the so they're putting in the screws for. Okay, so remember for the longest time the Yemenis would threaten ships, like they would get close, but they wouldn't take them down. Now this is not even the first ship that they've sunk, so they're willing to
yeah,
do that. So
but
they're
why a Greek one?
sorry, what?
Why a Greek one?
I don't think it's necessarily that they're trying to screw with Greece. I think they're trying to screw with the insurance policy of moving anything through that area. So you
Oh,
can see,
okay.
like, okay, if you're a Greek vessel flying under a Liberian flag transporting the shit, they're still going to take you down. So
Well, I'm not sure I
you
agree
don't
with
insure
that.
anybody. Maybe you can insure the Russians and the Chinese and they can go through, but other people not, as you can see.
Well, back when they were cutting off the supplies to Israel and stuff, like at least I could see the moral attempt there. But if they're just going around blowing up any ship that's in the water, I mean, that's not cool, you know.
I mean,
I get the point. If the intent is let's just destroy all activity in the Red Sea and drive up insurance costs and make life hell for the entire globe, well, it's kind of a change of scope, is it not? You know what I mean? That's definite mission creep.
from the Yemenis.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess you could say that. This says Colombian wives are crying, demanding from Ukraine money for their dead husbands.
Oh,
Well, what
boo
did you
hoo.
think? You think
Yeah.
that Ukraine does, they don't even pay out their own freaking dead people. Like, what do you think they're gonna
Go
do?
back to
Pay
that
out?
article. Go back to that article real quick. Okay, scroll down. Scroll down. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to see if they
Ramirez,
were cute. Go on.
Ramirez, they're waiting for you at home. So it looks like Ramirez needs to get buried, and he's not because he never came back from Ukraine. They never received the money because they never found the body. But yeah, it seems like
Well,
a bad
maybe there's
idea.
hope. Maybe there's hope for Ramirez just yet. Keep praying, honey. Keep praying. You know.
What about all those billions of dollars the U.S. sent over to Ukraine?
Well, I don't know, man. I don't understand these mercenaries. Like, if you're over in Ukraine and you're not Ukrainian, what are you doing there? Get the hell out. And if you are there and you want to fight, expect to die. Like I wouldn't expect them to take me prisoner if I was a mercenary. I'd expect to be shot in the face. Wouldn't you?
I mean, the Russians have said as much. Like we don't have
Right.
to take. You guys aren't covered under the Geneva Conventions.
Well, if I was a Russian soldier, I'd have respect for the Ukrainians. I wouldn't have any respect for the mercenaries. Why would you?
Oh yeah,
Right?
here we go.
There's there's
Aliyev.
something there's something honorable about the Ukrainian soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
fighting for their country. There's nothing honorable about a mercenary. Zero.
Yeah, Soldier of Fortune.
No,
This
there you
is
go. He
what I
just
was
wants his name out of it. That's it. That's what I was telling you.
does not seek escalation with Russia, wants to settle conflict, says Erdogan. Azerbaijan president is taking very cautious and prudent steps in this context. So he's saying that, hey, they really are trying to not, and I mean, it does seem to have calmed down, and it does seem that this is totally Azerbaijan's fault. Like you guys stepped in it. You guys control your own criminals. Do that. Control your criminals. How about you tell your criminals not to collect data on, not to ruin a good thing. Don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg. You guys have 50 criminals in there, been operating for decades.
All this is, dude, is hey, Vlad, you know that account down in Panama that you saw? Forget you saw it. That's all I'm saying. That's all this is. Right.
Brazil
And
president
Putin will
says,
agree. Putin will agree. He doesn't give a shit. Right. He's like, yeah, you want to rip off your own people? Sure, buddy, go for it. Right. Like he doesn't give a shit as long as long as the crime is done, as long as the gangs broke up. Like, what does he care what Aliyev gets out of it? So I'm sure they'll come to some sort of agreement, and that's why you don't hear anything about this because it's a nothing burger story, right? I thought that from the start.
yeah, well, yeah, I think it was it was almost like a spark or something, like a short-term explosion where they just really cut off the oxygen to this story early, and then you could see that the story that we were able to find, the most up-to-date one, was 6 days ago, and there was nothing new in it. So
Well, and that's I like the way you kind of phrase that as a spark. I see the media, that's what they do. They're arsonists, and they go around lighting all these sparks and then seeing which one will light, right? Oh, like you said, oh, Georgia, Moldova, Romania, wherever. Like let's light a spark, and we'll start pumping in some narratives around that spark for a few days or a week or however
breathe
long
some
we think
life
it has.
into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like building a fire. Perfect analogy. You're rubbing the sticks
Mm-hmm.
and you're blowing, doing all that stuff. That's what they're trying to do. Sometimes the fire takes, sometimes you got to start over. That's what they're doing. They got to start over. They got to go further out. Uzbekistan, I guess, is next, or Tajikistan, like where,
And
whatever stand they need to hit to find one that goes. That's all they need, you know?
yeah,
Um,
so you think so? You think that Azerbaijan is quelled? I think for now it is too. But I think the long-term plan with Azerbaijan is still for them to, do a pull a Belarus/Russia where they have their own governments, and then they have like a unitary government, kind of like that. So, and what that would really mean in that context is that Turkey gets to tell Azerbaijan and other countries that end up joining, including like our Republic of Armenia, what the policy is, kind of like their own little neo-Ottoman thing.
mhm.
Just really interesting. Just like looking at this is TASS, right? Russia's news agency. Brazilian president says it's inadmissible that India and Brazil are not UN Security Council members. Yeah, I mean, I guess probably, yeah. Ukraine conflict to end on the battlefield, not at negotiating table. Yeah, see, this is what the Russians are. This is what the Russians are actually saying, and this is what Donald Trump got butthurt about, because this is what he's hearing. They're not stopping the killing, right? And I mean, if the story had been laid out as he said in the beginning, because remember when Donald Trump was making this whole plan about how easy it's going to be for him to end the war in Ukraine, and he'll do it in 100 days or some shit.
Right.
I
He's a
think that,
spoiled brat. That's
well,
exactly, he thought that was true, right?
yeah, he didn't
Because
understand his
well, like we were talking about earlier, he just expects people to do what he says, right? And because he's retarded that way, and he's a spoiled brat. That's all he
Look at
is.
this.
Always
Trump
has
tells
been.
Zelensky U.S. to provide as much aid to Ukraine as it can spare. That went from as long as it takes to as long as we can to as much as we spare. Oof.
Well, and that's why I was saying, like earlier, this is all coped by the Western media that Trump is back in Ukraine. He's not, and he never has been. I think, like I said, they were pumping his tires at the NATO thing, and Zelensky got to him, fucking, took the beggar's bowl out, said, "Look, I even wore some sort of suit type thing
Right.
without a
Look
tie.
nice, right?
I look nice for you, Donald. I look nice. Give me missile,
Yes.
and Trump, being a retard, said, "Yeah, we'll see what we can do." That
And
was
look
it.
what Trump
That
said.
was all
Trump,
this
after
was.
talking to him, said U.S. to look at Ukraine's request for another Patriot system. Quote, they would like it. They've asked for it. Well, Donald, I guess it's cats in the bag, bags in the river.
So, did
It's
you
like a
get the
crazy.
backstory on this one? So, apparently, Germany has got a Patriot battery that they're unwilling to give up because, well, it's like their only Patriot battery, right?
They need it,
And
yeah.
so, anyway, the Americans went to the Germans asking them to give up the battery. They've been twisting the Germans' arms.
I've not heard this
Uh,
perspective on it. No, I've heard this. I've heard the story, but I didn't hear it this way.
the Germans suggested that the Americans and Germany pay 50-50 for it, and the Americans are still pressing them just to send it. So that was the
What?
last I had heard. So
Oh my
basically,
gosh.
what we're talking about here is neither country wants to actually give it up. Another country that doesn't actually want to support Ukraine, but because like a Patriot battery, they could afford that. Um, they just don't want to anymore. And that's what I'm saying. They're, Project Ukraine's done, dude. They just don't know how to back out of it.
They don't know
That's the
how to
problem.
wind it down. This is at this point in time.
Yeah.
This is the new goalpost. Goalpost. This is not an advancing goalpost. This is a receding goalpost, and the goalpost is make it look like Ukraine didn't lose, just to make it look like Russia didn't win, right? So no, so it's not a win. It's not that Russia won and Ukraine lost. Make it look like either they both lost or it was a wash. Imagine if they could have gotten their ceasefire. They would have said it was a wash. There was a ceasefire, right? This is what they're still trying to do. Like you said, they're
Well,
still trying to do the thing. They haven't stopped trying to do the thing this entire time. They're still trying to. They can't
here's
take
the
a step
thing.
back.
A lot of them are still trying to go with the plan to get to the midterms. I truly believe that. That's their plan. Get us to the midterms and hope to God for a massive Democrat victory. That's the plan. However, like any plan, eventually it comes face to face with reality. And despite their plan, you got to keep in mind that best case scenario at this point, let's assume that the Democrats have a big blue wave, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they do take both the House and the Senate in the midterm elections. The soonest that they could probably get a funding bill to help Ukraine would be like 2 years from today. Think about it. Do the math. They're only getting in January. Then they got to get the bill, blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, 2 years from now is when they can probably get a funding bill. So I think a lot of them now, the more realistic ones anyway, are starting to realize, uh, you know, even best case scenario that we can wait out Trump, we don't, like you said, have the cards anyway. So now they're realizing we don't have the clocks. We don't have the time.
The
So
time or the
we don't
card.
have the cards. We've got whatever analogy we want to use. They don't have it because even with the magic leprechaun that I talked about, you can't produce a shell with money, right? You need people, you need factories, which we do not have. So that reality is starting to sink in with people in Europe and in the neocon land. I think we're going to need another several months of Russian ass whoopings before we finally come to that conclusion. But I think that it'll come sooner than later. Um, I don't think Ukraine is long for this world with this war because there's no military left, there's no hardware left, there's no funding left. And I've always said this: forget about the military. Once the bureaucracy falls, the whole country goes to shit.
Yeah.
So unless the Germanys and the UKs and the Frances and the Canadas and the Australias or whoever else in the world, unless all of us vassal states are willing to sign checks to keep this thing going for 2 years, it's not going to happen. Because America is very clear. We're not putting another dime into this money losing dog. That's been clear since the start, since Vance said it. And so I think a lot of governments now are gripping with the reality that, my God, we can't fund this. We can't even fund our own government. Like, look at
Well,
the UK.
I
The
mean,
UK,
I
well,
think
look at
that
Starmer. Look at the mess he's in the UK. So this clown sends $5 billion over to Ukraine and then tells a bunch of pensioners that they need to freeze to death. Well,
yeah.
that went over like a lead balloon, and the guy is not going to survive the year now. So, and you're going to see the same thing in all these other countries. People won't support it. They don't support NATO 5%. They don't support money going to war to Ukraine for a country everybody realizes now is as corrupt as fuck. So they don't have 2 years. So the sooner they realize that and then figure out what the back out plan is, the better off they're going to be because every single day they are losing more and more money, you know.
Well, I mean, it's funny. Yeah, every single day they're digging themselves in a hole, but probably the part that they notice is the money.
Well, because it's not just the war. It's not just funding the war. It's more importantly the indirect consequences of the war. Look at Germany. Germany is economically devastated now in 3 short years because they've been cut off from Russian gas. Their industries collapsed. So they're not going to recover. They're not
So
going to recover.
$4
So
million
their only
dollars.
hope is Russian gas. Their only hope is Russian gas. They, at this point, I think the Germans should consider themselves lucky if the Russians even pick up the phone, quite frankly. So the Europeans, Bradley, they've got some major, major problems that are coming home to roost now. Keep in mind, this stuff takes years to flow through the system. We're starting to see some of these impacts big time now. And, forget about the weapons, forget about the men, which they don't have either of. They don't have the money and they don't have the industry to support it. And if you
And,
don't have that, you're not going to have a population to support it. Like
and one of the
people
many
do
things
not
that
care about this.
one of the many things that they don't have, not just Ukraine doesn't have, the West in general does not have the interceptors to shoot down these drones.
Well, that's what I'm
600,
saying. But that's the
600
least of their worries.
Patriots a year, 600 Patriots a year, allegedly estimated, $4 million a pop. Let's say they get them so good they don't even have to launch 2 missiles at a target anymore. All 600 are going to be used. Okay, that means in 1 year you can maybe fight off one attack, because the Russians' latest drone attack comes less than a week after Ukraine was hit by a barrage of drone strikes, with Russia sending a combined 550 drones and missiles into the country. So, and then they got hit again. Go
But
ahead.
that's not their problem. Like yes, the lack of actual equipment is a problem. It's not the big problem. The big problem is European industry is collapsing right now. And that's their big problem, right? They need to fix that. So they need to correct their relationship with Russia as soon as humanly possible. Not in a year, not in 5, not in 10, though that might take that at this point. Like I said, every single day they get poorer and poorer and poorer. So yeah, the weapons is the least of their concern, I think. I think the Germans, they should be, how do we recover our economy ASAP? How do we get back on that Russian tit? Right? That's what
I
they need to
mean,
do.
yeah, I mean, I feel like that this is up in the air whether or not what they would call that is the populists could rise to power and rival the established policy that they've been following, most of my life.
Well, they won't have a choice. Like eventually, and it's going to be soon, they won't have a choice because the people will demand it. It won't be a populist uprising. It'll be an uprising.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this before, you mess with somebody's standard of living, they do crazy shit. And you're starting to see it all over now. You're starting to see it in Germany now, a lot. Okay. They won't have a choice. They'll either listen to the people or the people will remove their heads from their necks. That's what'll happen. Right.
Right. Well, I guess let's move on to two scoops.
All right.
Look at these
On that
Russian
happy
agents,
note.
Russian spies.
Oh yeah, Russian. Yeah, it's just they fit right in Moscow any time.
Yeah, see, I hope they actually watched The Americans. I mean, I don't know. I never finished it. Like I said, I only watched a little bit of it, but it was all right.
Okay, so this is the first one. Of your two scoops. Why is it not working?
We just want to remind you, you are watching the KCRA3 News at 7.
There we go. Happy 4th of July.
We saw it coming. We saw it coming.
We saw it coming. Oh, yeah. You mean from the fact that there's a fire in a fireworks warehouse? Yeah, I think everybody saw that coming.
Yeah, we're fine. I don't know.
Yeah, so happy 4th of July.
Oh,
happy
I got another one.
Day.
I got another one to show you. So I don't know
we're
if
recording late.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are golfers, but the worst thing on a golf course is if you're playing behind slow golfers because they just hold you up. So this video is a couple of guys who are arguing with the guys ahead of them about being too drunk and slow. Now, words are said, fists are exchanged. Now, for the guy holding him up, what he doesn't realize is the guy he's mouthing off to is a former NHL enforcer named Nick Tarneski. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Oops. There we go.
Fuck up there or you're gonna get booted the fuck out of here.
Yeah, no, we're fine.
Enough.
No,
You're not a tough guy.
Hurry up.
I'll fucking promise you that.
Hurry up.
He's pretty tough. Not that fucking
No, he's
tough.
not.
Not that fucking
He's not.
tough.
He's not
No,
tough.
he's pretty tough.
He's not
that
tough.
fucking tough.
You're not tough.
Hey,
You're not tough.
Let's get going.
Get going.
Or you can play behind us all and you can take all the fucking time you want. This is
golf.
fucking
You're not
embarrassing.
tough.
This is golf. This is not
Yeah,
golf.
it's not.
It's been standing there 15 fucking minutes.
You
That's
can't
not
even.
golf.
You guys can't even stand
stand up.
and tee your ball up, man.
No, he's teeing up, man. That's fine. He's not teeing it up. He's standing
Do
there.
we
like a
need to get
fucking moron.
the police out here?
No, we don't need police. We're not.
Okay, then let's get going here.
Let's go. Pick your shit up and get going. This is not fun. We're what? I'm gonna throw him in this fucking lake. Is what's gonna happen. No, fuck you both. This is fucking bullshit.
Classic Canadian.
He's been there for fucking
Sounds like
23
testosterone and
minutes.
alcohol is
Cry
involved.
about it. Fucking cry about it. I'm going to. Fucking cry about it. Fucking cry about it.
pussy!
I'm a pussy.
Like,
Fucking
fucking cry about
buddy.
it!
Buddy, you're gonna get fucking shit to.
I don't give a fuck!
Like badly.
Good! Let's
Fucking
fucking
badly.
go, man!
Buddy, you don't want to go me. You don't
No,
wanna go.
I'm not filming this. I'm not stopping. No,
I don't know what
you guys need to get off the golf course.
Let's fucking go!
No, now. Like,
I don't know
pack
what
up, go now.
Don't know
Get in the cart and go.
I don't know what you're doing.
Seems like he's trying to scare a bear.
You're just making
I don't
yourself.
fucking care! Hey, man. Come on, man.
Hey! Off to a good start, buddy. I fucking told you!
Man, leave him alone.
You want another?
He
You
just
want one
fucking
too?
came at me.
Leave him alone, man.
I got it all on record.
It's around the golf.
I got it all on record.
Around the golf.
He's not done.
Fucking go, guys!
Leave him alone. Hey, leave him alone, man.
I wouldn't keep going back.
He's not done.
Hey. Come on, man. No, I'm not trying to get in there. Like, just like a fuck.
Enough! Are you still cheering on me? Enough!
Surely he's done now.
Get out!
He's not done.
Hey.
Enough! Things go well for him. Get him the fuck out of here! No, it's not gonna go well.
It's not okay.
Take him home or get him fucking out of here. Fucking get moving! I said stop looking like an idiot!
Get out of here.
What does he have to do? Break a bone? Oh my god. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, dude.
No, Buddy's a legit NHL enforcer back in the day. So yeah, he probably picked on the wrong guy. He just fed him. It's like, and he grabbed his shirt just like a hockey fight too.
Like he wouldn't finish. Like he would. Yeah, exactly. Learned this one on the job. But yeah, I should have heard what I was gonna say. But that was pretty hilarious. That was a nice treat. It was epic. I feel like nowadays, where there's so many people that are doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA and wrestling and so, like back in the day, you don't want to, like, if you're gonna pick a fight with a random dude, and you don't know, maybe he's like a college wrestler or something like that, you're gonna be screwed. But there's not that many of them around nowadays. It's pretty fashionable to do MMA and shit. Like there's a lot of people that do this. There's like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms all over where I live, everywhere. Like, and other places where I've lived, I see them everywhere too. So I feel like nowadays it's just a dangerous day to. It's kind of like, due to all the fentanyl that is in recreational drugs, it's a dangerous time to just do party drugs. Like kids, if you want to live the party drug lifestyle, you probably missed your boat. It was pretty good up until here, with the fentanyl, but now it's probably a good idea not to do it. Same thing here. If you were going to be a dumbass, you missed your chance before people were capable of. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I guess moral of the story is if you're going to be a drunk idiot out on the course, at least keep the pace. That's all. Just keep the pace. You know, there's nothing worse than having some slow ass golfer ahead of you. And now they shouldn't, like, usually what happens in a situation like that is you just let them play through, right? Like, many times I've been out on the course and people say, "Hey, you mind if we play through?" "Yeah, sure, buddy, go ahead. Not a problem." And done it myself too. Like, that's kind of the golfer's courtesy. So clearly something was said between the two before the video started rolling. They started mouthing off to each other, I'm sure, and that didn't help the situation. But all the guy had to do was keep the pace. Like, you're not playing the British Open. Right?
Yeah, right.
Keep the
You're a
pace.
shit
That's
face.
all.
Like, calm down, dude. Like, what do you have to? Like, what are you doing? You know. Well, I mean,
Anyway.
at least we were able to be entertained with these drunk people antics. This is pretty entertaining. I see a lot of these videos with drunk Russians, but not as many with drunk Americans. We should probably hunt some down for the next 2 scoops, because there's definitely plenty of them out there. But anyway, that will be our episode 26 of Hell in a Handbasket. Thank you everybody for joining. Hopefully next time we'll be able to make one more on time and not put so much time between, like, and hopefully not that like 50 things happen. But maybe nowadays world events happen at this pace exactly to fuck with our schedule. Like, you could probably predict when world events are going to take off based on whether or not we got shit going on we can't record. But anyway.
Now, what we need to do is find independent wealth, and then we can have like 4 shows a day, like Judge Knapp does.
There
So you work on that on your end, I'll work it on mine, and then we'll figure
So
out.
we never have to do, so we could just do this all the time.
Oh,
Okay.
fuck yeah, that'd be great. Like, can you imagine if I had the time in the world to do all that stuff? It'd be glorious, man. But I don't know. This whole inflation thing is a real pain in the ass.
Well, I mean, not just the inflation thing, but just there's a lot of people that get to have opinions and post them out online. So it's interesting that there's a lot of, and what one of the things about our show is in particular is that, like, we're two nobodies when it comes to this shit that we're talking about. We're literally just like news nerds reading the news and going like, that's some freaking bullshit. That's obviously some bullshit. So I mean, if
but
there's
you
like
know what? There needs to be more people like us, because
100%.
Like, if you're watching this, like, share, subscribe, because, just because we're a couple of news nerds and not very important in the world, it helps to have dialogue and get.
Doesn't mean we're not right. Over and over and over again.
Right. And we spend a lot of time, because we're news junkies, on this stuff. So I think we've got fairly intelligent opinions, if not expert. Let's just put it that way. I'd never consider
about as
myself
expert as they come.
Well, I'd never considered myself an expert in anything, but I'm not. I'm not an idiot either. I'm very well rounded. Let's just put it that way.
There we go. Exactly. Just an all around intelligent gentleman, guys. Nanya business. This is why we love him. All right, man. It was awesome.
The man of the people. That's me.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
guys.
everybody.
Peace.
Cheers.